Medical professionals have read it. What home remedy drives you nuts because you know it doesn't work? Not a medical professional, but I worked in a vitamins department at a natural foods grocery store for a couple of years. I went in knowing very little about any of it and have come out believing most of it is garbage, but certainly above all else homeopathic remedies shouldn't even be allowed to be sold, and I was constantly astonished at how many people are into it. I made it a self-rule that I would never recommend a homeopathic product, and if the customer asked my opinion on them I was honest, but otherwise if someone wanted to waste their money I didn't stop them. 2 general rules of thumb from a fascinating book by Thomas Gilovich. 1. If a drug, vitamin, whatever supposedly cures a whole bunch of different diseases, it probably doesn't actually work for any of them. 2. If a disease has a bunch of different supposed cures, it's likely none of them work. And a bonus gem from Tim mentioned by definition. Alternative medicine has either not been proved to work, or been proved not to work. Do you know what they call alternative medicine that's been proved to work? Medicine. We had a guy come in with an abscess on his right thumb. When I asked him what happened to his hand, he told me about his recent deep-sea fishing trip and was given the responsibility of cutting the fish with an open wound in his hand. A sliver of fish got in there and became infected as it healed. So this guy gets the bright idea of doing a little DIY wound drainage by grabbing his pocket knife and cutting it open, leading to a greater infection. Spent several months in Rifle County, Colorado caring for ICU patients with Swiss cheese for lungs because they spent weeks loading up on ivermectin rather than experimental vaccine before they relented to come to the hospital where they'd have 15 different IVs. I'm sure they researched those clinical trials though, pumped through them to prop them up for a week on event before they finally died. Not a medical professional, but a while back a coworker cut herself in the kitchen of the restaurant we worked at. Another cook convinced her to douse the wound with lemon juice and rub it with used coffee grounds. Ended up giving her a nasty infection in the wound. This is a woman who has worked in kitchens for going on 2 decades by this point. She really should have known better. For animals as a vet tech, no garlic, onions, essential oils, pumpkin seeds or whatever BS idea you have doesn't work as a dewormer or flea repellent. And in fact may be toxic. Go to your vet or at least a pharmacy or feed supply store or something like that. Also, don't use medication packaged for a different species unless specifically prescribed by your vet. Not a medical professional. For the love of God, stop using those vaginal washes sold on the market. They're ruining your biome and put you at risk for infections. If you want to make your vagina more balanced and clean feeling, stay hydrated, eat less processed food, drink less alcohol, clean your adult toys, and eat probiotics. Anything that claims to remove toxins through the skin or GI. You're either diving deep into a cheap chemistry trick, see how it gets dark, changes color? That's toxins leaving your body, or better yet, screwing up your GI. Bonus points for all the fun things these claim to cure fix. Nah, but when I was going through cancer treatment I got a lot of recommendations. Apparently aloe vera juice in high quantities does something. Same with red light therapy and castor oil packs on the stomach. I stuck to chemo and surgery and am cancer-free, so I'm good. Neosporin. And tested is no more effective than Vaseline for wound healing. Plus, many people are sensitive to it and will develop a rash. Keeping the wound moist is why it heals. The antibiotics and the Neosporin do nothing. Audiologist. Ear candling doesn't do anything but potentially burn you. Try Debrox first, and if that doesn't work, then get your ears professionally cleaned. And for God's sake stop putting Q-tips in your ears. As a child I got really bad sunburn. The person looking after me coated my sunburn in baby oil to help it heal, and sent me back out into the sun. I realized when I was older why my mom went nuts. Speaking for my wife, I'm going to say urine therapy. When she worked at an urgent care, she had a patient with an eye infection. I tried putting more urine in it but it keeps getting worse. Vitamin C for a cold is not nearly as useful as people think if you're not deficient. It might decrease the length of illness if taken leading up to it, but once you're sick it does nothing. Potatoes or onions in your sock to help a cold. An elderberry. People swear it makes them not get sick, but there's mixed evidence and it's not been proven to do what people say it does. You don't have to be a medical professional to know that homeopathy doesn't work. Sugar pills and water will not cure you of anything unless you weren't actually sick in the first place. I work in dental and years ago had a patient attempt to superglue her front tooth back on after it broke in half. She screwed up and ended up gluing the chunk to her upper lip. If it's not artificial tears or medical eye drops, do not put it in your eyes. This includes essential oils, juice, urine, and breast milk. I don't care what the internet says, not me, but my dad works in orthopedics. Has had to tell a patient to not put WD-40 on his knees to make them work better. He said the guy swore up and down it worked. Any home treatments for a burn other than running it under cool water? Please stop putting butter, mustard, toothpaste, icy hot, etc. on your burns. Colon cleanses and pH balancing water. Both are a total scam. The only real cleanses is stuff we give you for a colonoscopy. Eating Vicks Vapo Rub. You wouldn't believe the people who learned this from their parents, grandparents, great-grandparents. A former paramedic friend of mine told me he got a ton of calls by people trying to perform self-surgery on themselves. Cayenne pepper and honey. Colloidal silver is the bane of my existence. It's such a scam that preys primarily on the elderly and the poor. Bleaching my eardrums works perfectly fine, nothing can live in there after a 5-gallon flush. I just tell my patients this: if Bill Shatner is selling you anything on TV, it's not worth it. When people subscribe to feed a cold, starve a fever. That's not how any of this works. My sister is, and she can't stand people putting hydrogen peroxide or doing ear candles. It is stupid to refuse prescription drugs and believe home remedies will do the work.